Old woman who doesn't even do household chores, get out. The words that shouldn't have been said were carelessly uttered by my eldest son and his wife. They will surely regret this. Well, I'm moving out then. The next day, I received a call from my daughter-in-law, which, of course, I ignored. It's too late now. My name is Emily. I lost my husband when I was 40, and I started working as a medical office worker at a clinic. No mistakes are allowed, working as a clerk at an office in a medical institution. Working in the medical field means taking on the heavy responsibility of protecting patients' lives. This is true for nurses and pharmacists as well as medical office workers. Also, I was desperate to raise my son, Henry. Fortunately, my son graduated high school, got a job at a large company, and met the love of his life at work. I was excited to meet her because my son said, "She's extraordinarily cute." But she wasn't what I imagined. She may have good looks, but she's flashy with blonde hair and has a bad look. Her name is Grace, she's 25 years old. She cusses out my son very often, and she always has an attitude. She bragged about being a former gang member and blabbered on about her juvenile days. Looking at her casually talking about unbelievable things, like throwing 5 hooligans into the river, I told my son that I was against their marriage. However, my son was totally smitten and insisted, "If I can't marry her, I'll never get married." My son and his wife Grace got married without throwing a wedding, only registering their marriage, and started living together. In retrospect, this marriage might have been the beginning of our tragedy. After getting married, my son quit his job and said he was going to open a shop. The news was so unexpected that I was surprised and went to my son's house because it wasn't something to talk about over the phone. "What do you mean, open a shop?" "I'm just fed up with the rigid hierarchical relationships in the corporate structure." "Did something unpleasant happen?" "I had a bit of a quarrel with a female employee." "You weren't fired for sexual harassment, were you?" "Do I look like Harvey Weinstein?" "No." Making jokes while having an important conversation is one of my son's bad habits. Even at 35, he doesn't know when to stop joking around. "What kind of shop do you plan to open?" "A cafe that serves delicious coffee." There was a song like that in the past. Or was it about tea? "Do you have savings?" "You'll need about $100,000 to open a shop, right?" $100,000. Looking at my son's shocked face, I became anxious. Opening a shop without a plan would fail immediately. Does my son understand how difficult it is to run a restaurant? "Why don't you try working in a cafe before having your own shop?" "Grace is looking forward to opening a shop." "How about becoming a hired manager?" "A hired manager doesn't have much freedom, right?" "Of course, I'm going to be the owner and master. With my innovative ideas and rare intellect, running a cafe is a piece of cake." "They called me Einstein back in high school, you know?" "Your classmates were full of liars." "Now I look like Lindsay Lohan to you?" "I didn't say that." Just like this, we can't even go on with our conversation. "Do you have any savings?" "I don't. So I will probably go into debt first." He's not even crossing a dangerous bridge, but just holding on to burning ropes at this point. "What's the theme for your store?" "What do you mean?" He hasn't thought of anything. I became more worried. "Who's your target?" "What kind of customers do you want to attract?" "Well, I'd prefer young and cute female customers." We're having a serious conversation here. I could post only beautiful women allowed outside the shop, haha. I listened, suppressing my anger. "Do you have a unique selling point? Something that no other shop has?" "Of course, I do. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to call this my trump card." "Can you tell me what it is?" Grace will be the waitress. Once that happens, I'm sure we'll have a long line of male customers. If I had to choose a cafe, I'd choose one with a cute waitress, especially since cafes are usually visible from the outside. If they see Grace's lovely figure, we're sure to attract a crowd. This is hopeless. I can't take him seriously. As I was about to leave, my son held me back. So, there's something I want to discuss. What is it? I want us to live together. Live together? With his wife under the same roof? Since Grace will be helping with the shop, I want you to take care of the house chores. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, there's a lot, right? Let Grace do that. I'm a full-time employee, I work full-time. Even at your age? The director said that if I wanted, I could work until I'm around 65. Being at the same workplace for a long time builds trust. You should have kept your job instead of losing your temper. My son was silent for a few seconds, then replied with a troubled expression. I just made a small mistake, but my stupid boss started yelling. You made a mistake at work? Not at work, but I asked a slightly plump female employee from another department if she was pregnant, and she glared at me. Turned out, she wasn't. You're kidding! If you ask a woman who's not pregnant how many weeks she's been pregnant, it's like telling her she's fat. Haha. You idiot. It's not something to laugh about. More than her, the boss was angry, criticized me as if I was not a human being. So I retaliated. Told them I'd quit. What does he think a job is, to quit so easily? So, why jump to opening a cafe without looking for another job? Writing another resume is a hassle. If you're going to open a shop, you're going to have to write documents that are more tedious than a resume. Then my son waved his index finger from side to side, saying, No, 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 with a condescending attitude. I resisted the urge to slap him in the face. Writing a resume for a job you don't like and writing documents to realize your dream is completely different. You're kidding me. I am being for real. There's no point in getting heated with someone who's not even serious about their own store. If having your own store is your dream, then I won't hold you back, but I'm not doing any of your house chores. Come on, I need your help. You can take care of household chores even while running a store, can't you? Actually, I made a promise with Grace. Convincing Grace was tough. She didn't easily say yes. I told her that I'm happy just living with her, and I don't need anything else. Even said she doesn't have to do any household chores. I was speechless at his audacity, but I couldn't let it slide. So why should I be the one to do the household chores? Actually, it's not just household chores, I'd like you to help with preparing the shop too. It's not as much as running a pub, but the prep work seems hard, doesn't it? If you're including me as a staff member, then I'll have a say in things. I'd rather you not, though. I think I need to crush my son's naivety before we open the shop, otherwise, it will be a disaster. With that in mind, I asked a basic question. Do you have the stamina to keep running the shop? I'm confident in my stamina, sorry to say. I do stretch out and lifts weights every day without fail. I'm not talking about your physical stamina. I'm talking about the financial foundation to pay employees' salaries and maintain our livelihood, even if we don't have any customers and run at a loss. I don't have any confidence in those aspects, to be honest. Seeing my son say that with a smile, all I could do was sigh. Sighing lets happiness escape. You're the one making me sigh. Me? Why? Oh, shut up. I came in, obviously upset, but there are still a lot of things that need to be discussed. I rambled on quickly. If we're also serving light meals besides coffee, we need more ingredients, and we need equipment, supplies, interior, signage, and whether to hire staff. The menu can't just be a poorly handwritten one. The location of the shop is even more important. Did you check whether there are any similar coffee shops nearby? If you're going to open a shop, you need to use things like social media and flyers, devise a PR strategy, and show a meticulous plan, otherwise, nobody will lend you the startup capital. As I was talking, Emily, who had been silent all this time, interjected. Hey, why do you get to decide? For a moment, I didn't know who she was talking to. Did she mean me? Henry's the one opening the shop, right? Running a restaurant is tough. Shut up, old hag. I couldn't believe my ears, but my son stepped in with a forced smile. Easy now, don't get pressed, Mama. Let's continue this conversation tomorrow. I thought I heard old hag, but I must have misheard. Maybe my hearing is getting worse. I have a medical office job, with a monthly income of $2,700, and I get bonuses. I have saved up a lot of money over the years by not splurging. I wouldn't mind supporting my son a little. I want to support him if he's serious about working hard. Indeed, having your own shop is a dream and it must be rewarding. I started living with my eldest son and his wife on the condition that I would be involved in the shop's management. I didn't live for 60 years for nothing. I leveraged my connections to get a referral to a trustworthy tax accountant, and I persuaded my complaining son and his complaining wife to take the accountant's advice. Thanks to that, we were able to borrow $60,000 for startup capital. We managed to start the shop, but our cafe isn't always packed with customers every day. One night, Grace came out of the bathroom, walked all the way to the kitchen in just a bath towel, and opened the refrigerator. I was stunned and couldn't say anything, but I couldn't stay silent. Grace. If you were living alone with my son, I'd understand, but since I'm also living here, that attire is not acceptable. It's because you're here that I'm wrapped in a towel. If you weren't here, I'd be stark naked. There is a phrase left with one's mouth hanging open, and I was literally frozen, with my mouth agape. Can you stop nitpicking? Calm down, I told myself. One morning, my daughter-in-law came to the kitchen yawning in her pajamas and began to eat the breakfast I had prepared without saying a word. The cafe opens at 7 a.m. for breakfast, but it was already 8:30. Grace, you don't seem to be at the cafe lately. Henry said I don't need to go. Some ugly customer tried to exchange numbers with me all of a sudden. I got pissed and refused. He started saying, "What's with that attitude?" I'm a customer here, so I told him, "You're 1,000,000 years and 3 days too early to flirt with me with that face." I gave my smug daughter-in-law a stern look. Our customers are gods. The cafe can't run without customers. We don't need customers like that. I splashed water in his face and told him never to come back. Ha ha ha. You're lying? Before I could open my mouth, my daughter-in-law cut me off. If it were the old me, I wouldn't have hesitated to pour hot coffee over his head. He should be thankful it was only water. This can't go unspoken. I'm her mother-in-law. Grace, you need to find a job, even part-time, and help with the household expenses. Is that an order? She glared at me with terrifying eyes. Does she think she can intimidate me? I mustn't back down. Grace, if you don't want to work, at least do the housework. Shut up, old woman. Nothing pisses me off more than being ordered around. Who do you think you're talking to? You. Who the hell do you think I am? I refuse to be lectured by some old woman like you. My fear and anger crossed, and I was trembling. Huh? You're not thinking of slapping me, are you? If you do, I'll punch you in the face. This is it. I have to tell my son about this. When the cafe closed, I told my son, "There's something important I need to talk about. If it's a lecture, I don't want to hear it." I told my son in detail about my daughter-in-law's unbelievable abusive language, but my son said something unbelievable. "You nagged Grace again, didn't you?" "What do you mean nagged?" "I'll tell you something since you don't seem to realize it. You're always negative." "Negative?" Ignoring his wife's rampage, my son had the audacity to tell me off. "When you keep correcting others, they will distance themselves from you, even if you are right." "I'm the one in the wrong?" "Even if you think this person is saying something strange, affirm them first. If a person is affirmed from 1 to 10, they'll feel like listening to what that person has to say. That's how you connect with others, Mom." My son is completely on his wife's side. "If I'm lectured by you, my life is over." With that, I left the cafe. The number of customers we have has dropped significantly. A rumor probably spread about my daughter-in-law who abused our customer. I asked my son, who was idly standing at the counter, "Henry, do you check the passbook?" "I don't check it that much." "You should occasionally update the passbook and keep track of the balance." "We're still fine, right?" It seems he doesn't know that I've been contributing a small amount every month, because he doesn't often look at his passbook. I don't particularly want gratitude or thanks, but he's just never aware of his financial status. This is not good. You can't get by with rough estimates and expectations. Life always finds a way. There's no way it will. Absolutely no way. Why the immediate denial? Let's talk about something fun. It's said that good fortune comes to those who laugh often. Look, I'm an optimist. I can't bear it and let it all out. What you have isn't optimism, but mere optimistic sight. Optimism is thinking positively even when faced with adversities, viewing even the negatives in a positive light. It's a capability to turn tragedies into great outcomes by burning a fighting spirit. You can't be an optimist without these. Optimistic sight and optimism are totally different. Despite my earnest words, my son began slapping on the counter. Tap out. Like when a high kick puts someone down, you mount on top of them and throw punches at their face? Enough. This is about your store. Shut up. I'm seriously worried here. If you can only spew pressing things, then get lost. I couldn't believe my ears. I can't stand to watch my son change, poisoned by that woman. I hate to say it, but... Then don't say it. Grace doesn't help with the shop, doesn't do housework, and verbally abuses me. Is this okay? When I talk to her about it, it causes tension, so you, as her husband, have to say something. Oh, Grace. What? As I turn around in surprise, my son bursts out laughing. Got you, you really fell for it. Ha ha ha. Is this how he ridicules his parents? I've made up my mind. I won't interfere with his shop anymore, and I won't do any housework. Even if the room is messy, and I want to clean up, but I resist and do nothing. In the morning, my daughter-in-law in her pajamas asks me when she sees nothing on the table. Huh? What about breakfast? Why don't you make it? I have to go to work. So, see you. Wait. I ignored her and left the house. I finished dinner at a family restaurant near the clinic and got home around 9 o'clock at night. My furious daughter-in-law confronted me. What time do you think it is now? You didn't make dinner. Are you trying to starve me to death? If you're hungry, you should make dinner yourself. You're not a child. Are you picking a fight with me? As I ignore her and head to my room, she grabs my arm. Wait. If you resort to violence, I'll call the police immediately. Perhaps intimidated by my resolute attitude, she lets go of my hand. By the way, you haven't done the cleaning or the laundry. That's why, Grace, you should do it. If you don't do the housework, there's no point in you being here. Are you serious? I think I'm a considerable help. What about you? You don't do housework, don't help with the shop, just complain to others. What good are you doing? Badmouth me any more than that, and I'll hit you. Getting injured would hinder my own work. I took refuge in my room. I could hear yelling from the bedroom. Even though I know it's not right, I ended up listening. Because you spoil her, that old woman gets out of line. Every time she sees someone, she starts complaining. Do something. If you can't say anything to your parents, I'll leave. Stop! That would be a problem. If Grace leaves, I'll lose my reason to live. If you really think that, then do something. I got it. I'll do something, so don't say scary things like leaving. It's pitiful. Did I raise him wrong? I guess I inadvertently spoiled him because we were a single-parent household. I wanted to cry. My son said he had something important to discuss, so I went to the shop after it closed. His wife, Grace, was there too, looking at me with a somewhat mocking expression. What's the important matter? Do you plan to not do the chores anymore, at all? I've been telling you that you should do your own housework. Shut up. I told you not to order me around. If you're not going to do any housework, then get out. Laughing, my daughter-in-law spat out these harsh words and gestured to my son. When he hesitated, she whispered something in a low voice, but I could hear her. If you don't say it, we're getting a divorce. The woman who doesn't do any housework should get out. The woman who doesn't do any housework should get out. My son and his wife had said the lines that should never be spoken. They would surely regret making me genuinely angry. Just to confirm, Henry. Are you really okay with me leaving? Get out, just get out already. Then, I'll move out immediately. Just one thing. What more could you possibly want? Henry, I'm cutting ties with you as your parent. From now on, we're strangers, so it's useless to rely on me. That's what I was about to tell you, idiot. You just keep quiet. I'm talking to my son. When I shouted, my daughter-in-law grabbed my arm. My son hurriedly stepped in between us. Hey, let's stop the violence. Let go of her, break, foul, 1, 2, 3. Shut up. We're not wrestling. This is a street fight. There are no rules here. Did you forget that I warned you I'd call the police immediately if you threw your hands on me? My daughter-in-law withdrew her hand but glared at me. I moved out immediately. There was a good apartment near the clinic, so it would be easier to commute from now on, and I wouldn't have to see that woman's face. The next day, I got a call from my daughter-in-law, but of course, I ignored it. Despite the persistent calls, I never answered. I used to transfer $3,000 to my son's account every month, but of course, I haven't since I moved. I can't imagine their business will thrive with such careless management, and now they've lost my support, so their savings will eventually run out. Without the burden of unreasonable support, I'm living a relaxed and peaceful life. A year has passed since then. I got another call from my daughter-in-law, so I answered. Hello. Is this Mom? I'm glad, finally you answered. She called me Mom in a subdued voice, but I'm not naive enough to be fooled by such a thing. It's been a while. What is it? The shop is in serious trouble. It might close down. Close down? Did a meteorite strike it down or something? There was a few seconds of silence, but my daughter-in-law continued to speak in a timid voice. Please help us. We have no customers, and if the shop does close, we won't be able to repay our debts. Actually, some intimidating big guys have been threatening us. They're offering me a job at a place that works late at night. Please help us, Mom. I don't have a daughter. I apologize for everything that happened. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. But I replied coldly, I won't forgive you. What should I do for you to forgive me? I'll never forgive you. You've done far too much. It's too late. You're not nice, Mom. You were giving us a huge amount of money, $3,000 every month, to help us. Why didn't you tell us about such an important thing? Grace. You might convince foolish men by pleading in a sweet voice like that, but I'm not that easy. I'm busy, so I'm ending this call. Wait, please. Goodbye. Even after hanging up the phone, they called several times, but of course, I ignored them. Realizing after you've tasted hell is too late. 3 days later, when I was about to go home after finishing work, my son and his ex-wife were in the clinic's parking lot. The couple knelt down in apology, but I just walked past. Wait, please, Mom. We really need your help. You're the only one we can rely on. Like I said, I have no daughter, no son. Mom, families help each other in times of trouble, don't they? Who are you to saying that to? We've reflected on our actions. Please forgive us. I brushed off his ex-wife, who was deeply bowing her head, with harsh words. Even a monkey can reflect on their actions. A monkey? Wait, Grace! Are you calling us monkeys? We agreed you wouldn't get angry no matter what was said. They argued among themselves, but I turned my back and walked away. I could hear Emily shouting and my sons crying from behind. It's all your damn fault. When I looked back, Emily was attacking my son, but it was none of my business. Later, I heard through the grapevine that their shop had gone bankrupt. His wife left a divorce paper and ran away, and my son fled in the night. It hurts to see such a tragic end. There are many people in the world who try their hardest but still can't make it. I want to support and help such people unconditionally. But I have no intention of helping someone who not only doesn't try, but also makes a fool of others. Now, I can focus on my work. Being a medical clerk is rewarding. No one comes to the hospital because they want to. I want to treat patients with cheerfulness and kindness, to give them hope and energy, even if it's just a little. My name is Olivia. I'm 35 and have been married to my husband Lucas for 7 years. We have a 5-year-old son, Thomas. Normally, it's just the 3 of us living a peaceful life, but I have one major grievance. It's the long vacations and Christmas when we go to Lucas's parents' house. Only his parents live there, but during the holidays, his sister and her family join us too. During these gatherings, which sometimes exceed 10 people, I'm expected to handle all the meal preparations. Because I'm married to the eldest son, everyone seems to think it's my duty. His sisters don't help me at all. On top of that, they leave their kids with me and go out to have fun. Even Lucas doesn't offer me any help, so as the holidays approach, I start to dread them. Just the thought of preparing meals at my in-laws is painful, not to mention the harassment I endure from Lucas's mother, Ava. From the beginning of our marriage, Ava has criticized everything I do. The first time we went to visit after getting married, she told me out of the blue, "Olivia, please prepare all the meals while you're here." I was shocked. It was my first time in their kitchen, and everything was thrown at me. In a panic, I checked the fridge, finding almost nothing. I had to start by shopping for groceries. "Do you want anything specific to eat?" I asked with a smile without showing my irritation. "Just make something delicious. Don't check with us every time, just get on with the cooking." Jackson, Lucas's father, seemed nice and calm, but I couldn't figure out what he really thought. Ava was always openly hostile towards me. Even when I casually asked Lucas about his parents' favorite dishes, Anything's fine, don't worry too much about it. He always responds so casually. Lucas is originally unreliable, but since then, my distrust in him has only grown. In the end, I decided to make a safe choice and cook curry. As the smell of curry began to waft from the kitchen, Ava started her snide remarks. Curry gives me heartburn. I'll have to take some antacid tonight. Without time to make anything else, I served the curry for dinner. Ava complained that the curry was too spicy, or that she preferred pork over beef. Anyone can make a decent curry, she remarked, leaving the comment hanging in the air, yet she went for seconds. Meanwhile, Jackson ate without saying a word, but after he finished, he let out a deep sigh and left the room. While Ava's reactions are irritating, Jackson's sigh feels more condemning than her snide remarks. Dealing with just my in-laws' meals is stressful enough, but it gets even worse when Lucas's sisters and their families join. Harper's family consists of Lucas's sister Harper, her husband Ethan, and their daughter. Harper, in her appearance and manner of speaking, is frighteningly similar to Ava. Together, they hurl insults at me, making it feel like there are two Avas. When Harper comes to visit, she expects me to handle everything from cooking to making beds. Of course, she doesn't thank me, she takes it for granted. Ethan, usually quiet around his in-laws and Harper, becomes tyrannical when they're not around. Go buy cigarettes, he'd demand, treating me more like a housemaid than family. Their daughter Emma, much like Harper, seems spiteful. Olivia, we're out of juice. Then Ethan would join in, ordering. Olivia, I'm out of beer. Bring some. Laughing foolishly, the two of them enjoy themselves. They are usually quiet in front of Harper, probably because they're used to being scolded by her. They seem to let loose when at the in-laws. For me, who ends up doing all the work, it's unbearable. Natalie's family includes Lucas's sister Natalie, her husband Mason, and their son. Compared to the insidious Ava and Harper, Natalie is brighter and easier to talk to. She always comes to chat while I'm preparing meals. While it's nice to be approached so casually, Natalie doesn't help at all. At first, I used to listen to her seriously, but if she's not going to help, she's just in the way. Eventually, when I responded non-committally to her chatter, "Are you even listening to me?" she'd snap. Busy with work, I had to listen to Natalie's endless, meaningless stories about her husband's complaints or her in-laws' snide remarks. I wanted to vent to Natalie too, but I couldn't dare speak ill of the in-laws. As soon as Natalie realizes I'm not fully engaged, she'd tattle to Ava and Harper. Then I'd get scolded by both Ava and Harper. Just because she's your sister-in-law doesn't mean you can ignore her. You should at least listen to her. Such a mean spirit, bullying your weaker sister. They'd freely insult me. I wanted to retort, "Who's the mean one here?" But I didn't have the courage. All I could do was endure the long vacations and Christmases. Even when I was pregnant, the treatment didn't change. I worked as usual the day after I gave birth, Ava would brag, expecting the same from me. I heard from Lucas that Ava had been badly harassed by her mother-in-law too. It seems she's intent on making me experience the same misery. I wish she would stop returning the ill treatment she received onto her daughter-in-law. Thomas was born in December, so that year, we didn't go to the in-laws for Christmas. "Why don't you go home alone?" I suggested to Lucas. He replied grumpily, "It's boring to go back by myself, so let's skip it this year." He informed me that year, the siblings didn't stay at the in-laws for Christmas as usual. They left immediately. Without me there, nobody could handle the meal preparations, so no one stayed overnight. But from the next vacation onwards, the hellish treatment at the in-laws returned. Now, I had to take care of Thomas while preparing meals and accommodations. When Thomas dirtied his clothes and I had to do laundry at the in-laws, "Since we're letting you use the washing machine, do our laundry as well." They started making me wash their laundry too. Seeing this, the sisters-in-law began piling their laundry on me as well. I ended up folding Ava's and her sister's laundry. Completely turned into a housemaid, they even dumped childcare on me. "Looking after one or two kids is the same. Please take care of my son," they'd say before leaving the newborn with me and going out to have fun with Ava and the family. Only Jackson stayed home, pretending not to notice anything and watching TV. I was shocked when even Lucas left with Ava and the others. From that moment, my affection for Lucas began to cool off. As I was taking care of the two babies, one of them would inevitably start crying. Then Jackson would explode in anger. "The noise is so loud, I can't hear the TV. finally got rid of the annoying bunch, and I can't even watch TV in peace." Jackson, usually quiet in front of Ava and her daughters, didn't hesitate to complain to me. I hated his silent pressure on regular days, but him yelling like this was just pathetic. The men in this house only act tough when the women aren't around, then badmouth them behind their backs, especially Mason, who is amusing to watch because of his drastic two-faced nature. In front of Ava and the sisters-in-law, he's all smiles, serving food and drinks diligently. But when the women are absent, he's swapping nasty comments about their wives with Ethan. Not caring about how it affects me, his wife, they freely talk trash. "Why do we have to come here every vacation and Christmas? I feel the same. It's nothing but torture for us husbands. Moreover, just between us, my marriage isn't going too well, so next time I might not be here," they'd say, laughing uproariously. Whether they're joking or serious. They don't care that I'm listening, the conversation escalates. Honestly, my marriage isn't great either. My wife is too domineering, always looking down on me. They glanced around, and seeing it was just me, they began whispering. "My wife is just like her mother. Thinking about her getting even tougher with age is dreadful." Daughters do resemble their mothers, don't they? Recently, even her face is starting to look like her mother's, and it's creepy. Both of them were rolling on the floor, laughing at their own words. I began to wonder if Lucas also talked badly about me when I wasn't around. These two, laughing at such talk, would transform into entirely different people the moment Ava or the sisters-in-law appeared. They knew that if I told Ava or the sisters-in-law about their behavior, I would be the one accused of lying. That's why they felt free to speak ill of Ava and the sisters-in-law in front of me. Year by year, the workload dumped on me during the holidays at the in-laws grew heavier. Apart from meals, overnight arrangements, childcare, and laundry, now I was even tasked with picking up and dropping off Natalie's family. During a meal right before everyone was about to leave. "I'd like a beer, but I have to drive home, so maybe I should refrain," Mason mentioned. Hearing this, Ava chimed in. "From next time, let's have Olivia pick you up. That way, you can drink beer without any worries," she suggested to Mason. Mason, perhaps jokingly, agreed, but Ava took it seriously. "No, you don't need to go that far," he said. But cutting off his words, Ava commanded, "From now on, you will do the pickups." No one dared to object. In the car back home, even I, usually restrained, lashed out at Lucas. "I'm already cooking, arranging accommodations, taking care of the kids, and even doing everyone's laundry. Now I have to do pickups too." Lucas, taken aback by my anger, was at a loss for words. "Is there no limit to harassing your wife? How much more do they want to exploit me?" My anger was justified. The in-laws' house was in a snowy region, making Christmas visits challenging. Natalie's house was a 2-hour drive one way, but in heavy snow, it could take nearly double that time. I knew Ava would expect me to finish cooking and then go pick up Natalie's family. Exhausted and asked to drive in such conditions was absurd. I'm not accustomed to long drives, and surely Natalie's family would be terrified too. I was furious that Lucas, knowing this, didn't stand up to Ava. "I'm cutting ties with your family. I won't see Jackson, Ava, or your sisters ever again." I didn't want to see Ava or the sisters who did as they pleased. Hoping to calm my fury, he responded with a forced smile. "Totally fine. I'll let Mom and everyone know, so don't worry." When Lucas talks smoothly like this, he's usually just trying to appease the situation. But with his agreement, I finally felt freed from the in-laws' clutches. I marvel at my own patience over the past 7 years of marriage. That Christmas, I went on a trip with Thomas and my parents. It was the first time since Thomas was born that I spent Christmas with my parents. It's rare for us to be together for Christmas. Is it okay for Lucas to go back to his parents alone? Having shared my in-laws' harsh treatment with them, my parents were surprised by the trip. "It's okay. I have Lucas's permission, so he won't complain," I assured them, though I wasn't sure if Lucas had really talked to his parents. He had reluctantly agreed to cut ties with his family after my outburst, but I doubted his parents and sisters would accept it easily. They had been taking it easy so far, likely avoiding preparing meals themselves. However, they probably thought they could easily buy meals from the supermarket, so I assumed they weren't too worried. My parents, seeing their grandson Thomas after a long time, were overjoyed, and Thomas seemed to have fun too. When we visited the in-laws, I never had time to pay attention to Thomas, and I realized he must have felt lonely. Watching the three of them having fun, I completely forgot about the in-laws. Then, in the lobby of the luxurious hotel where we were relaxing, a familiar man walked in with a young woman on his arm. He resembled Mason, but he was supposed to be at the in-laws. The more I looked, the more he seemed familiar, and it appeared he noticed my stare. The man made a surprised face and quickly turned away. Likely because he was up to something shady. I pretended not to see and averted my gaze from the man. Just then, I received a call from Lucas. "Hello, what's up? Please, can you come to the family home right now? It's chaos here, nothing is prepared. Haven't we agreed that I wouldn't go anymore from this year?" I wasn't surprised, I had expected something like this. "I did mention it, but it seems the message didn't get across," he replied. I figured he hadn't really talked to his parents. I had already informed them that I wouldn't be able to pick up Natalie's family. Natalie had complained, but it seemed she had been pacified. Lucas was desperately trying to get me to come back. But I was more focused on the commotion and what sounded like Natalie's voice in the background. "Mason has run off with some woman. He said he was going to work, but when I called the office, they said he was off today." Hearing Natalie's words confirmed that the man I saw was indeed her husband. "Mason is at the hotel we're staying at right now," I responded. Lucas was taken aback by the sudden shift in the conversation. "What? My brother-in-law is there?" I decided to tell the truth, thinking it would serve Natalie right for how she had treated me. Natalie must have heard Lucas's voice, as she snatched his mobile phone and started shouting at me. "Mason is there! Where are you right now?" Natalie screamed, almost rupturing my eardrums. "Young and beautiful woman, high-class hotel," I replied. Next, Ava grabbed the phone and started yelling at me. "How dare you go to a hotel on your own? You think that's acceptable?" Even though they're shouting at me loudly, I can hear them. "I've discussed this with Lucas. I have his permission to not associate with you anymore," I replied, deliberately provoking her. Ava started screaming something incomprehensible. Then Harper snatched the phone. "We can't even have a meal without you. Please, somehow come back," Harper said, unusually polite, but I knew she only spoke like that when in trouble. In the background, Emma, Harper's ill-natured daughter, yelled, "Olivia! Hurry up and prepare the meal!" I couldn't help but laugh, realizing she was just echoing Harper's true feelings. The in-laws' house seemed to be in such a frenzy that I just hung up the phone. Since I had set my phone to reject calls, I didn't know what happened afterward until Lucas returned home. Seeing Lucas's reaction upon his return, I was prepared for the possibility of divorce. Worst case scenario, I was ready to make a life for Thomas and myself as an office worker. When Lucas returned from his parents' house, he apologized profoundly. "I now understand how hard it's been for you all this time. I'm truly sorry." Lucas had been burdened with preparing the Christmas meal, doing everyone's laundry, and taking care of the kids, especially Natalie's child, throughout the holiday. Natalie, after hearing from me about the affair, had tracked Mason down to our hotel, apparently catching him in the act. Indeed, when we were leaving, the hotel staff seemed flustered, and there was talk of a quarreling couple. Perhaps that was her. Everyone had complained about Lucas's cooking, having never done it before, and, fed up with their nasty remarks. "I'm cutting ties with this house too. I'm never coming back," he snapped. It seems Lucas has declared cutting ties as well. Hearing Lucas's declaration of disconnection, I felt relieved and confessed, "If you hadn't decided to cut ties with your family, I was planning to divorce you." Smiling as I said this, Lucas began to cry and apologized again. "I'm really sorry." Believing in his tears, I decided to keep striving together as a couple. From that year on, we decided to go on trips with my parents for Christmas. Both my parents and our family are delighted, and we intend to keep this tradition. Meanwhile, the in-laws' house doesn't seem to gather anyone anymore. Natalie and her husband divorced soon after. Natalie, having custody of the child, now had to work to support her life, leaving her with no long vacations or Christmases. Harper also realized that if the other siblings didn't return, she would have to prepare the meals herself, and didn't want to go through that hassle just to visit her parents' house. Left alone, the in-laws led a lonely life, unable to see their children or grandchildren. Ava, unable to harass anyone else, seemed to have turned her frustrations on Jackson, and I heard from Lucas that Jackson had left home. Lucas, deeply affected by the criticism of his cooking at the in-laws, has been cooking more often lately. Watching Lucas improve his cooking skills makes all that commotion feel like a distant memory.